All right, you are looking live at. Wait a minute, that's how they used to start the NFL. Remember back in the day when you were a little kid? Well, for you, way back in the day, Brent Musburger, my namesake, would start the NFL on CBS. Then you are looking live at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, California, as the Rams take on the Dallas. So I just felt a little homage for saying you were looking live at watching Amazon. How about that? How'd you
How
like?
about that?
Did you like that? No.
Are we live yet?
Yes, we are live. And who are you?
The bold one, the cold one, John, the black one, the powerful one.
The simple one. I'm Brent Leary, folks. That's how you do it. Well, let me start this edition of watching Amazon with a little helpful visual aid. This is what I
A
was met
visual
with.
aid.
This is what I was met with. I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago when I fired up my Amazon Fire TV.
Oh wow, yeah, the black square.
Yeah, of course, I was in the getting ready to go back to watching Fist of Fury because that's how I roll. Me and Bruce.
Hey, did you
But
see
yeah,
his 30 for 30 the other day?
why
I
ask
guess it's
such
a replay.
silly question? Of course.
Was that a replay or is that the
No, it was
first
a
time?
brand new 30 for 30. But let's not get sidetracked by because I could talk about Bruce, all day long. But this is watching Amazon. We are watching Amazon in the midst of not only a pandemic, but a social protest that has really gone worldwide at this point. And,
Yeah.
because this is watching Amazon and this is going on right now, but there are a lot of things going on where there are some cross pollination intersections going on here. I'm going to pop up some things because even last week we started this conversation and we're trying to figure out, where Amazon is going to play a role in this and what role should they play and things like that. And they started doing the Black Lives Matter. They put it out on social. They started sharing some emails from that Jeff Bezos was getting from
I
customers
only
that
got
weren't all
one.
that happy. Well, he got one and they put it out there. And then another one came up. And let me see if I can get that up there. There it is. Now, the first one that came up, it wasn't really, he didn't go too far into it. He just said, he kind of did a nice little explanation of, why Black Lives Matter, which I thought was pretty good. And he mentioned something to the effect of, he will never have to worry about his son having certain things happen to him like a black father would. And I thought that was a cool statement. But there are a lot more people out there sending emails, and this particular one that I'm addressing here, threatening to not be a customer if Amazon keeps going down this road. So I was glad to see this. I think it was a small step, but it was a good step. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. I don't really
Yeah.
understand. I don't understand the vitriol coming out of the racist. I mean, it's just so ridiculous, you know. Just get over yourself for real. And, I mean, if that's where you want to if you want to spend your money with other racists, I think you should have the right. Go for it. Find racists to support and only buy from racist people and only let those racists deliver your packages. I think every racist should have their own delivery service. I support that. And their own channels, their own Facebooks, all of that stuff. You should have your own. I think that's perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, but well, what company in their right mind is going to say agree with those emails? I mean, is the
Other than
CEO from
Fox
Walmart?
News, other than Fox News,
I'm going to stick to the retail.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just like I say, it's so ridiculous that people get so enraged that they are writing letters to the CEO of Amazon, a corporation that has a populace that's partially black, a data or a buyer base that is partially black, and to not empathize with that part of your customer base. And then if you do, you're going to have these other people, which they're absolutely insane people. What are you going to do? I'd be like, bye. I don't get it.
Well, I think that's what Jeff basically said.
Right.
You know, I was glad to see it. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's
No.
just, we don't mind seeing you leave. You know.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not happy, good.
Right. So I think, and right after we had spoken, Amazon announced that they were donating it's like $10 million to a number of different organizations. I know the NAACP was one of them. So I would say this past week Amazon has stepped up. It's good to see words and it's good to see money. So I think that's good. But where do they go from here with this? Where do you think they should go? Because I want to post this up and let you address this.
Okay.
So I just saw this morning. And I watched the video because I went to the article. So there's this video shot by a bystander who was just walking down the street and saw where the police had stopped this Amazon driver. And by the time the bystander got to the scene, the Amazon driver was stretched out on the ground. The guy had his the knee in the guy's lower back. And there was no need. And then they also showed the guy, because this went over a course of minutes, where 20 cops, 20 police folks showed up. And he said, the guy that was shooting the video said, it almost felt like it was an endless, they kept coming and it was just the one guy. And the whole thing running through my mind as I was watching this video is, how is Amazon going to respond to this on behalf of the Amazon driver who did nothing wrong, mind you? But I think he was coming out, driving, and I think his car was not going in the right direction because I guess he dropped his package off and kind of made a quick, turn on the side of the road to jump in and jump out. By the time he got out, I guess cop was there. But the guy didn't really do anything wrong.
Well, I'm sure he didn't do nothing to call out the whole half of police force.
No, and like there are bystanders asking, why are you doing this? And the bystanders like, hey, just try to relax. We're here. We got video going. You gotta feel for the driver. I mean, the Amazon driver, because he's probably wondering, am I going to be the next guy?
I think everybody feels that way at some point right now, especially when, things just seem to be on the police side. I don't understand what's in their brain right now. I mean, if you're on camera, the situations in the community right now, why are you on 10? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, my question though is more, how does Amazon handle something like this? You've made the statements, you've made some donations, you've got, you're saying the right things, but now it seems like now it's more than about the sayings and saying the right thing. When stuff like this happens, how do you think Amazon should handle this? Because it was their driver that got handled.
I think they should handle it with the name and the brand of Amazon itself, right? I mean, this is what happened to one of our drivers, not just is he, black and a male, but he's one of our drivers. If our drivers can't be out in the community and feel, you know, unhindered by the very people that are supposed to protect and to serve, what the hell is going on? And then they should play NWA. I don't know. I don't know. It just makes no sense where we are right now. It really doesn't.
I really hope that they really get behind this guy. I mean,
I think so too.
I don't know. I don't know the whole story. I just know it was in the article. I saw the video. It looked bad to me. So I have to qualify by saying that.
Here's the thing, man. I think there's a qualified response, right? So first, yes, of course, we want to know why the cops stopped it. But then once we know why, I think there's a qualified response. And this overqualifies for a response on anything other than maybe if it's Tony Montana, yeah, but come on, a delivery driver, that's just way crazy. And you got innocent bystanders right there saying, dude, what's going on? Why all this? So I haven't even had a chance to go back and look at the video, but I'm sure the video picks up a little.
Yeah, late. It was actually, definitely picked up a little, like midway through, and it's on the news. So the video is actually part of the newscast, and they interview the guy who took the video. So you get a number of different perspectives, but you get the footage
so this is a bigger issue. It's like, how do corporations, you're saying, right, respond to what is happening to their workers of color? And how can they be proactive, reactive, and really support those people that are going through certain things in their own communities? Because it's all, it's all important. It's all part of, the Amazon family and how Amazon does their business. It's just, I do think bringing attention to it has to be part of their program. Don't you?
Absolutely. That's why I kind of wanted to walk through the initial kind of symbolism of having the Fire TV show up with the Black Lives Matter, with on the social talking about, Amazon stands by, the Black Lives Matter movement, having the responses from Jeff Bezos from the emails he's getting. So all of those things are good. And donating the $10 million. So far, that's good.
All right. So go to the next one. Because I know where you're going now.
Well, no, I think, we're seeing things. That was a good first phase. But I think it's a first phase. And now we're seeing, where the other phase two response we have to kind of keep an eye on, and things like this, like your drivers being harassed by the police, maybe even more than harassed, maybe brutalized, maybe things like that happen. So how do they follow up the initial verbal kind of acknowledgments with how do we stand behind our drivers, our employees? And then the next phase of this is, let me point this out. All right, so this was I just saw this yesterday, but this is a pretty interesting survey. 44% of Amazon professionals say ethnicity is not represented in upper management. So how do we go from the verbal acknowledgments to the standing up for your employees, kind of the feet on the street, who are going to be, much likely on the front lines of having these kind of interactions with the police? And then the next level up is, okay, how are we structuring the company to include Black lives not only mattering, but Black thoughts and Black executives being a part of, the process of, determining the road the company goes on. So this survey caught my attention because I want to get to the thing that really got to me. I think there's a 10% number I'm looking for here. Oh, there it is. So, according to a survey of Silicon Valley companies by Blind, I don't even know who Blind is. They did the survey. 10% of the African American respondents felt their ethnicity is represented in upper management. 10%.
10% felt they were.
They were.
Hmm.
Now, on the flip side, 76% of I think white Americans felt that their ethnicity was represented. To me, that seems a little low, but 10%. That's
Wow.
that's less than what do we make up, about 14% of the overall US
Yeah,
population?
13.8 or something.
But this is only
But
10% thinking that Amazon, the culture of Amazon also takes their culture into consideration
wow.
in the executive rank. So that's why I wanted to lay this all out this way. I wanted to start with
Yep.
the initial response, and I think it was a good response. I think they did a lot of the things right, but going forward, how do they respond to both of these kind of things? The police interactions with their drivers, their drivers of color, probably for the most part, when these interactions take place, how does Amazon respond? How do they, for lack of a better way, stick up for their drivers? And then how do they make the people of color in their organization feel like their voices are being heard and represented at the highest levels of the company?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to actively pursue diversity, because the system, and that's why we talk about systematic racism. When we say systematic racism, basically all that means is that the system is set up so that it does not actively pursue diversity. So you have to first actively pursue that diversity to counterbalance systematic racism. And then once that has been brought to an even keel and an even level, what's going to end up happening is that just naturally things are going to be more diverse. You know, many of us have very diverse, friends. We don't actively have to do that because we're not systematically programmed to be racist, right? But if you have a system that is, then you have to actively pursue that. That's what Amazon probably has to actively pursue. They're sitting in the middle of Seattle, Washington. I don't know how diverse that place is in terms of, the community that they're in. But inside of your organization, you should seek out more diversity, because actually diversity will get you greater sales, greater engagement in your customer base. Your customer base is already diverse just because it's part of America and the fabric therein. If you have people represented at the top, they can give you more ideas and more insights into how to reach out to those different communities of color, or different communities that are, just different, period. Whether that be a gay community or a Indian community, or Native American community. All of these communities have their own uniqueness to them. And if you take the time to get more leadership like that can give you those ideas and insights, it will change your organization and your bottom and top line, I believe.
Well, I tend to think that most of these kind of the bigger companies, the companies that have been around for a while, they were not inherently born, so to speak, with diversity as part of their foundation. They just weren't. They didn't have to be.
Right.
They were focused on maybe some kind of business opportunity, some kind of new technology, some kind of earth-shattering technology, and the business model is focused completely around that. It wasn't focused on kind of the societal aspects of business. It was just focused on we got an opportunity to make some money here. What do we need to do that? So the business model was completely divorced. They didn't have to think about it. It wasn't like they were trying to avoid it. They just weren't thinking about it. But as you get more entrenched and you get bigger and you become a more important business to the overall economy, and your customer base is diverse. When your customer base is diverse, you need to start thinking about this stuff more seriously.
And you know, the other thing is too, you say small, right? But once you start hiring, usually your internal employee base becomes diverse, and you want to think about the culture that those people are working in too.
Well, I think the initial, when your company ramps up, maybe they're the hyper growth and they're early, who do you kind of rely on? Your friends and your family.
Right.
And if your social structure is, circled around who you grew up with, who you went to school with, who you played ball with, that's who you're going to rely on. And let's face it, there are a lot of instances still in America where there's not a lot of integration. Some of it is forced, but naturally speaking, naturally gravitating towards different kinds of people, that just doesn't happen that much still. And so when you build a company and you're in Seattle, and I don't know much about Seattle except one of my buddies from Microsoft lives out there. It doesn't seem like it's a very easy or natural progression of meeting lots of different people, particularly blacks and Latinx people who are typically under represented in these high-paying, high-tech jobs. So it's not until your company gets to be a certain stature that people start to bring it to your attention, because I don't think they ever really think about it until it's brought to their attention.
But the thing is, that is the definition, bro, of privileged.
Absolutely.
I can't grow a company and think that way. I can't even. I got a 2-person company. We started together. My husband's white. I'm black. We go in. I'm the CEO. We go into the bank. They talk to him. So I don't have the ability to have the privilege of not even paying attention to diversity. I mean, it's in my face. That is the very definition of privilege, when you don't have to even think about it.
Didn't say it wasn't, but that's the way.
No, I know. I'm not saying you, but I'm just thinking about so many times, bro, when we were starting out and it was just the two of us, man, and it's still pretty much just the two of us, but things changed, right? But I mean,
well, let's put it like this. Bill Gates went to Harvard and dropped out. I mean, first of all, how many black folks were at Harvard when he was at Harvard? How many black folks were at Harvard when Mark Zuckerberg was at Harvard and dropped out? Jeff Bezos was working at a hedge fund. How many brothers are working at a hedge fund in the early 90s? I mean, so all these companies were really, formulated outside
in a privileged society.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they each borrowed money from their parents to get off the ground.
Absolutely, man.
My parents were school teachers.
So he's putting in the work, and I appreciate that.
Yes,
and I ain't the one.
I know, and I'm glad that we're each kind of in the same lane. But
how many years? Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I think the next couple of months are probably going to tell us a lot about how committed and how serious they are to this, because it goes beyond the initial acknowledgement phase. Maybe we're in the part of the end of the acknowledgement phase with this. And they gave a good sum of money.
Yep.
But I think the follow-up to that has to be, how do they handle these situations? How do they back up their employees that are, not, at the white collar jobs?
Yeah.
How do they treat them in the fulfillment centers? Do things get better? Do conditions get better? Do opportunities get better? Do benefits get better? That's something I think we're going to have to look at. And then what happens? How do you make that 10% go up to 50%, 60%, 70% to say that they feel like they are represented at the highest level?
I mean, the
Because
best
to
way
me,
they got to educate them, give them
yeah,
opportunity and education. That's all you got
well,
to do.
they gotta be open to it, and not try to maybe not try to drive it themselves, but be open to
Right,
a collaborative approach.
right.
And if we see that, I think we see results.
And
Um,
I mean, to come out and say the things they've said, uh, I just really am hopeful at this point. Actually, to be 100% honest, people are surprising the hell out of me right now.
well, I will
This
definitely
is
say I'm seeing a lot of things that I didn't expect to see, like
right.
the NASCAR guys
Oh
doing
gosh,
that was
that was
I was like,
awesome.
wow, that was really interesting.
And they're saying the same thing basically. If you don't like it, bye. That's just I'm going to be and it's just they're helping to move the culture forward. We all should be on the page here.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, how things progress. I, I'm I'm feeling positive right now about it. I
Yeah,
think there has to be follow up. I think we're at the very early stages, but I think Amazon has a chance to be a leader in this because there's so much interest in Amazon, just generally speaking. So anything that they do in this area is going to get lots of attention,
yes,
and that's why I think Amazon could really move the ball forward in this area. And if they do that, uh, you should see a little bit more of a relationship between them and like the AOCs and the Bernies and the Elizabeth Warren. You're not going to if this happens. The relationship between the current resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is just going to be even worse than it was before, if you can even get worse than your was
no
before.
love lost there either.
No, but
No love lost.
if they do take a lead position, at least on the corporate side,
Yeah,
leadership position of this,
others will follow.
others will follow. And I think
Absolutely, they
that's
are a giant in the industry of everything. So anything that they do definitely will have a trickle down effect.
I think they recognize that too. I really
I think so
they
too.
recognize that.
That's I mean, just think about it. Jeff Bezos is such a private person. You know, we don't hear from him that often
Right.
unless something's rolling out or they got to launch. We don't hear from him on a personal level. We don't hear from him on how he manages his people inside of his company. You know, and for him to put this out there, I think that alone it means a whole lot. Absolutely, absolutely.
So we'll just have to continue watching because
Yeah,
this is a whole other aspect of Amazon that I wasn't planning on watching. But then again, 3 weeks ago, we weren't talking about this stuff really. And as unfortunate as it may be, because
we were. That's not true. That's
not. I mean, we weren't focused as heavily.
Matter of fact,
really
let's be 1,000% transparent, Brent, that we've had conversations about being black and technology since we've known each other. We've talked about how we were the only person in the room, how people would kind of treat us differently, how we would hear some side remarks that didn't include I mean, we've talked about being in this industry as people of two men of color and seen a lot, but we never talked about it on camera, right?
Yeah, but
even the fact that we're doing it's crazy.
That was more of a general conversation. It wasn't focused on any one company, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
No,
I mean,
absolutely. No, but yeah, it wasn't about Amazon or anything. It was just about being in the room with all these companies, all these C-level folks, and hardly ever seeing. I mean, you remember, I remember you interviewed. I can't remember like the first person, but I remember one of the first times you got to interview a C-level person that was black from an organ. You were like, oh, you were so excited, because it's like that's so rare to see somebody and really be able to relate like that. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's just crazy.
So we'll see. We'll see. We'll be watching. That's for sure.
We will definitely be watching. The funny thing is, too, I did an interview with a buddy of mine, and we've been friends for a long time. And he's the CEO of a pretty big, e-commerce company. And it was really interesting for him to tell me how he viewed me, and it was really weird for somebody to flip the script on you, and instead of me giving my impression of the world around me, his impression of me compared to the world around him. And how does he move forward? Because his company is in it's in San Diego. It's like, really, I've got to really struggle to find people to diversify my organization. And it was an interesting conversation. It's like, what do we do?
Interesting. All right. So I wanted to go back to kind of the normal theme of the show. Although this is kind of normal, but it's also
Brent, it's the pandemic. New normal.
It's the new, or as I've heard people say, it's the next normal. Whatever.
Oh, okay, whatever. They're always coming up with something. So what's this?
So this is more on the pandemic side of things. Mm-hmm. As we've discussed, Amazon is going through a lot of issues over the course of the pandemic. And this, I think, were you the guy that turned me on to this Market Pulse thing?
Yeah, Market Pulse, yeah.
Yeah, so they came out, Amazon struggle sent traffic to rival retailers. Now look at this graphic here. This is kind of interesting. So if you look at this chart, mm-hmm. What is Amazon and the next 10, which is really interesting. So back before the pandemic really took root,
wow.
Amazon, I think they made it like it took like the next 10 e-commerce sites to equal Amazon's revenue. And so I think that's February. Are we looking at? Yeah, February versus May. So
February's in the gold.
Yeah, so that's February is the first. Yeah, February, I guess, is the first Amazon February, that first one, which is $2 billion. 2 million, not dollars, 2 billion views, I think, in February of this year. Amazon had 2 billion views to the site. Now look over to the purple. That first column is February for the next 10. The next 10 e-commerce sites, all added up together. It didn't even get to Amazon's number in February of this year. But look what happened in May. The top 10 went past Amazon. I think it's 2.9 billion to 2.5 billion views. So what happened? Amazon had the issues. People tried to go to Amazon, couldn't get their stuff. Well, they went to the next 10. And that's where, we've had that conversation before, but that's the graphical image of what happened with Amazon's troubles allowed other vendors, other retailers to see a significant increase in traffic. What do you think this is going to look like in June or in July? Do we see it going back to what it was before? Or do you think that this is the start of these top 10 really being able to build on this and take these numbers in the direction away from Amazon?
I don't know if they're taking the direction away from Amazon. I think that the pie is getting bigger, and as the pie gets bigger, Amazon's percentage of the pie might shrink.
Yeah, but look at the numbers here.
Well, yeah,
Amazon
that's
numbers did shrink.
that's what Amazon quote off.
Right,
That's what
right,
Amazon Prime basically off. And
right.
once it turns
You're
back
right.
on, it'll probably,
Well, that's a
you
good
know,
thing. That's the thing to look at because those main numbers. It's not only Amazon saying third parties don't send in your essentials. I mean anything that's not essential. We're only going to be selling. We're only going to be emphasizing things that are essential.
right.
So
I
does
mean, that's
that?
what the homepage, like we were talking about, the homepage was off.
So
You know?
because of that, people had to go other places for their non-essential stuff for the most part, right?
Yep.
So what happens now that Amazon seems to be fully up and running? And I have a way of describing why I think Amazon is really fully up and running. If I could find it, is this it? No, that's not it. Although that's another thing we got to keep an eye on. There was an image that I had that talked about how Amazon now had upper scale webcams back in stock.
Yeah.
So to me,
Yes.
First it was toilet paper,
Right.
but
Right.
everybody and their mother was trying to buy video streaming equipment over the last couple of months. And then
Except me.
Yeah, well, you should have been. But I saw something that said, "Hey, Amazon now you can now buy more than just the cheap webcams on Amazon again." So I was like, "Okay, they are really back." First we got the toilet paper, now we're getting good webcams back. So they seem to be all the way open and just in time because I think it's later this month they're doing that not Prime Day but some kind of sales thingy promotion. So they seem to be open back up. So do you expect? I want to go back to the numbers. Where is that? No, there's so many things in here. Where is that one? Oh man, this is what happens.
Yeah, you need a new computer, bro.
No, I'm just trying to find that the stats one. There it is. So, do you expect that to go back to the norm, which is Amazon having more of the traffic than even the top 10, or do you see it taking a longer time for that to return, or do you say I don't think it's going to return? I think now the cat is out of the bag, and Amazon will never have the hold on people by way of the traffic that they had.
No, I think they'll pretty much go back.
I think once Prime Day hits or whatever they call that, they bring everybody comes back.
Pretty much. I mean, but still, I do think that there are other companies and other services that are taking the e-commerce space very seriously, where they were pretty dormant and docile before.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Spotify has really. I think they've done probably the best of the group that I've been kind of focused on. They seem to have moved the needle more than anybody else, and I think they're in a position because of the Facebook relationship and some of the other stuff they've done. I don't know what about Alibaba? How do they fare in all this?
Alibaba has had some of the worst fits in trying to get inroads into the American market space, and it just is a hard thing for them. That they've tried to launch their own marketplaces, and it's just not been good. So I do see them having an opportunity for a lot of growth for what they're doing in terms of supplying Americans, even direct supply out of China. But we're always got to worry about that part that they are out of China. So, that's part of their problem. I don't see them making some great inroads in the near term in Amazon with marketplace abilities. I just don't see it.
Look at eBay. eBay kicked it in terms of traffic, at least.
Smart, because that's the thing with eBay, and is that when times get tough, People look for bargains, and eBay is cheaper than Amazon. Simple and plain. I don't know why people think Amazon is cheap. Amazon is not cheap. You know, they're just
I,
convenient.
and I
They,
think
they are the stop and go of the internet.
I think when the economy is doing decently, at least decently, people are willing to offset a little price for a lot more
Convenience.
of a convenience and getting my stuff when I think I'm going to get my stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's the overall experience. Uh, the experience is less about price as it is about, like you said, convenience and dependency and being able to get the stuff when you think you're going to get it. If I can order it and get it in a day, I'll pay a couple of extra bucks more. I'm already part of Amazon Prime. I might as well use it to a fullest. So that's why I think Amazon people will just return back to Amazon. I saw somewhere where the prediction is by the end of, I think it's by the end of the year, uh, they're expecting 200 million people to be Amazon Prime members. That's almost
Wow.
2/3 of the country. And that's an amazing stat. And that's the thing that keeps people coming back to Amazon, even when they have issues like they've had during COVID-19. People think it's only temporary. They'll get their act together and then they're right back at it. That's a hard thing for all these other companies to overcome.
Pretty much. Unless you're looking for unique boutique type experiences, if Amazon is going to be the department store, if you're trying to compete with Amazon in that department store area, you have to be a Walmart, to even try, in my opinion. If you're small mom and pop and you serve the masses, you're just going to have to wait for the crumbs off the table. And they're big crumbs. Don't get it twisted either. There's big crumbs here. As large as Amazon is, so is the crumbs that fall from its table.
Look at all
the tide.
I'm just looking at, these are all the Amazon sites. So this was just the American site gets 2.5 billion views. Look, Japan 613. I mean, look at all the views they're getting outside of the 2.5 billion. That is so hard to compete with when one company is driving that level of views to their properties.
And I don't know if everybody wants to compete with that. I mean, they've got a head start in what they're doing,
Yeah,
but if you're in a category or if you are in, a niche, then there is room and there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I think the key is niche. You got to be very
somewhat
unique. You got to be unique in the market.
I mean, we're not comparing that to whatever the leader is in that city or that country. So right. I don't really know. I can't tell you how big that X number is in Japan because I'm not looking at all the other players in Japan. I don't know how much that is comparatively.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the bottom line is, and we talked a little bit about this, Amazon, gave their competitors an opportunity, an opening due to some of the things that were going on. I think that window of opportunity is closing.
Yeah, it's closing rather rapidly.
All right.
It's closing rather rapidly. And I just don't see, even if we get a second wave, I don't see us going back to hoarding paper towel and, the crazy shopping and buying we did the first phase. I don't see it doing it again because now we kind of know it was the unknown that made people react and respond in crazy ways. I don't necessarily think that's going to be repeated.
I don't think so, but it'll be really interesting to see, how this new holiday thing Amazon is putting together, how that changes some of the numbers we just looked at, and then how does the Prime Day, and then of course how does the holiday season? That's the biggest test.
That's going to be big. That's going to be big, and that's going to all depend on, like we said, a few things: the second wave, the economy. Even though it looks great right this minute, it's propped up heavily. I mean, by the time the money runs out in September, what's going to happen? Are we going to have another injection of this money? I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting. And then we got the election. So Christmas is going to be an interesting time.
That's a whole lot, man.
That's a lot.
That's a lot going on. And that's still 4 or 5 months away. Who knows what else is going to happen in between now and then?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Based on the way 2020 is, we could have alien invasion by then. Who knows? Gosh.
We'll just have to sit and watch it, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to keep watching, bro.
All right. And the birds are trying to chime in too now, I hear.
Man, they are ravenous. If y'all can see out my window right now, they are eating up some stuff out there.
Do they have their Black Lives Matter signs? Or,
no, they really could care. They're saying wing lives matter.
It's like that Chick-fil-A, eat more chicken.
Eat more chicken. These guys are going to town on my bird feeder, man.
All right, well, we'll let them go to town. We're going to go away until next week.
All right, my bro.
Who knows what we'll be watching? Who knows what we'll be watching next week?
Who knows?
All
but
right.
It'll be interesting.
It always is.